We're here today with actor C.J. Graham. You might remember him as Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th, Part 6. He's going to be coming to Minnesota here for Crypticon, September 12th through the 14th at the Crown Plaza Hotel West in Plymouth. C.J., thank you so much for joining me today.
All right, buddy. Thank you for pushing the show. I appreciate it.
Well, you're coming to Minnesota here for Crypticon, September 12th through the 14th, and I know you do a lot of conventions, and it's great to have you here in Minnesota. I see you're reuniting with some of your castmates from Friday the 13th as well.
Yeah, we're going to be there on the 12th, 13th, and 14th, and one of those days I'll be doing full wardrobe, where I put the wardrobe from Part 6 on in totality, 100% spot on, and take photos with all the fans and stuff. I do about 18 shows a year, give or take. I don't really go over that. There's opportunity to do 20, 30, 40 if you really want to. Wow. But 18 for me, I'm retired. That's 1.5 a month, and that gives me an opportunity to spread some of my wealth out there with people, taking photos and selfies and meeting all the fans that have made this franchise so incredibly wonderful over the years. I mean, it's iconic.
Yeah, of course. As a guy who's played Jason Voorhees, these films mean an awful lot to so many people, generations of people at this point. That's got to be cool for you to, meet the fans and kind of hear the effect on their lives.
Yeah, I did Crypticon working for Tat. I worked for him about 4 years ago last time. I try to come through every 3 to 4 years. As I indicated, I only do 18 of them a year, so it takes time to get around, and I don't want to wear out my welcome. But, as you indicated, here's a good example I tell everybody when I'm doing panels. If you go to India, there's about 1.4 billion people. Show them a picture of Tom Cruise, they're all going to know Tom Cruise. Show them a picture of C.J. Graham, just as C.J. Graham, they're going to shrug their shoulders. However, if you turn it around and show a picture of Jason Voorhees, they're all going to know it's Jason.
Definitely. Well, I wanted to ask you a bit about that and how it was for you filming. I mean, you've got a lot of makeup and stunts and roaming around the woods. I imagine that must have been pretty grueling at times to shoot that.
Yeah, two things. Number one, it was the first film I had ever done. I never went to stunt school, for clarification. All of my stunts I did myself. First time I ever did those stunts, being set on fire, underwater, all that stuff, it was just a matter of my stunt coordinator just kind of walking me through what I was going to feel, and then they paid me to do it. Every time they set me on fire, I got what's called a stunt bump. And I kept thinking, oh, shoot, you can set me on fire all night long. They kept paying me more. But I had never been to stunt school, so I was very fortunate that I did not get hurt. And I was very fortunate nobody else got hurt because, I had control of a lot of people's bodies throughout that filming. But I was very fortunate because when you're younger, you're a little more savvy. Your hand and eye coordination is a little tighter. When you fall to the ground, you tuck and roll. Like when I fall to the ground now, I go thump. And I lay there for a minute and make sure my fingers are working and my toes. But when you're young like that, you just roll out of it like a jiu-jitsu move and you're up and ready to go. So I was fortunate. I was the second choice, I always say, to be fair. The gentleman that was chosen before me was a stuntman, but unfortunately the one scene with the three paintballs hit the midsection is not me, and a lot of people just assume I'm wearing padding. It's just that he was a little thicker than I was, and that thickness took away from what they were trying to create. So that was the first scene they shot. They kept the scene because there was a lot of effects to it. And on a Tuesday, I got a phone call. On the following Monday, I was on a plane going to Covington, Georgia to replace that individual.
Well, and you did get to kill Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter. I mean, that's probably something you never thought you'd be able to say.
Well, yeah, I always tell people I killed 18 people, kind of like living in California. Nobody goes to jail.
Well, was there any pressure for you playing Jason? I mean, not only because people's love for that series, but I really think Part 5 was kind of seen as a bit of a letdown for some of the fans. I mean, this was really the film that kind of got things back on track.
I didn't feel the pressure personally because it was my first film. I felt fortunate that I got it. When they put me in the Screen Actors Guild and all that kind of stuff, the union, I didn't even know what that meant because I was so green. So for me, it was just putting the wardrobe on and, taking care of business. And the director, Tom McLaughlin, was great about giving me direction because you're not talking, you're not showing any expression. I mean, it's kind of like asking you to step in front of the mirror right now and look eye to eye. And I want you to show me anger. I want you to show me frustration. I want you to show me curiosity, but you don't get to move. You can't make any facial expressions. You can't yell, you can't scream. You can just move your shoulders a little bit, your head a little bit. So those were the challenges. But again, Tom McLaughlin, very similar to was old school. We both liked the Universal horror movies, the Universal monsters, Dracula and Frankenstein. So we hit it off real well.
Well, one thing I got to ask you about, another thing a lot of people can't say, your memories of working with Alice Cooper for the music video. That had to be cool to, have the movie in the theaters and then be on MTV with Alice at the same time there.
Yeah, the great part about working with Alice Cooper is, and I was in the military 51 years ago. So that means I went in the last couple of years of Vietnam, 74, 75. But my first concert I ever went to was 1973. I was 16, and believe it or not, it was Alice Cooper. Welcome to My Nightmare is what the concert was called in Seattle, Washington. So I get an opportunity then in 1986 to work with him, and I do see him usually every year over the last several years doing these shows. I retired as a chief operating officer, general manager of 2 casino resorts 8 years ago, and I started doing, like I said, 18 shows a year, and usually every year except this year, I see him at a show, and we do photo ops with the fans. Going back to what you said about Part 5 versus Part 6, I always say Part 6 got the James Bond opening, comes back to life like Frankenstein, got a rock and roll Hall of Famer, Alice Cooper, doing the music, and I get to wear a Batman utility belt.
Well, and that was a bit of a comeback of sorts for Alice Cooper as well around that time. So I'm sure you guys probably share a friendship that he doesn't have with a lot of other people.
I think that's true. And when I do see him, it's just like, I've done shows with him where my wife went to a show and his wife went. And, the girls hit off well. He's a good man, 100%. He's been, quote unquote, sober for about 45 years. He's very proud of that. That's why I mention it without feeling any pressure, because as a lot of rock and rollers, they went through their scenes. But you know what? At this age, he's still rocking. He's out there doing shows right and left. The only reason he hasn't done a show this year is because he's been on the road touring with everybody. So that's just how active that man is. And from what I understand, I don't play golf, but I understand he's a golf scratcher, which I don't know what that means because I don't play golf, but I understand that's pretty good.
Well, again, CJ Graham's with us, and he's going to be coming to Minnesota this year for Crypticon, September 12th through the 14th at the Crown Plaza Hotel West in Plymouth. CJ, outside of the Friday the 13th stuff, I wanted to ask you about your memories of filming Highway to Hell. How was that experience for you?
It was great. Highway to Hell, I don't know if you ever heard of a guy named Ben Stiller.
Sure.
He was in it for like 7 seconds. And of course his mom and dad were in it, and Christy Swanson was in it, Chad Lowe was in it, so it was enjoyable. The challenge with that, unfortunately, is when distribution came for that, a couple weeks out before distribution to theaters, that company Hemdale bankruptcy, so it sat on the shelves until a few years back when MGM and Universal bought the library. So now you can buy it Walmart and stuff. When people find that I played Hellcop, they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know." But I was fortunate. Then over the last 8 years, I've got a chance to play with it, and I mean play with the films. Vengeance 1, Vengeance 2. Where I played Elias Voorhees, 13 Fanboy, Deborah Voorhees film. Myself, Kane, and a few others were on that film. Then of course, Jason lives in a couple different throwbacks when it comes to discussions about the Friday the 13th series. So I've been pretty fortunate.
Well, and I think that film, Highway to Hell, as the years have gone on, that's really become quite the cult classic here as well. I know a lot of fans are maybe starting to just discover that film.
They are, and they are discovering it. A lot of times they just come by my table. I always have one photo out of Hellcop, and they're like, "Oh." In fact, I just did a show 3-4 months ago, and Lita Ford was there, believe it or not. She was right next to me, rock and roller that was in the film, and that's the first time I've seen her in 35 years. So now, and don't forget, next year, 2026, is going to be the 40-year anniversary of Friday the 13th Part 6. So next year will have been 40 years in August that it came out.
Yeah, time flies. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but there were so many of those films coming out around that time, and now there's been quite the drought here. Hopefully there's going to be more of those coming up here at sometime soon, I hope.
Well, the one thing about Friday the 13th, Leatherface, Michael Myers, and Freddy Krueger, in my opinion, we get to be the OGs of the 80s, and hopefully we'll be able to maintain that source as Universal Monsters did through the 60s and the 50s. They're still very popular with the fans. We've got a lot of new folks out there, Terrifier and It and Killer Clowns and those different functions. And, they're doing great right now, Scream. And, if they're still doing great in 25, 30 years, 40 years, then they hit a home run. But you don't know until, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. Like Friday the 13th, Part 6, I had no idea that you and I be having this conversation right now, 39 years ago.
Well, again, a lot of people love these films, and they mean a lot to a lot of people. And you'll be at Crypticon again this year, and a lot of people will be able to get a chance, as you mentioned, to meet you, and then also in full makeup and costume. That'll be quite the experience as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, is my wardrobe is 100% spot on. I'm still 6'3", 250. So the only thing that's gotten uglier is my face, but that doesn't matter because I wear a hockey mask.
Sure.
But one thing I'll tell you, that the fans are amazing. I'm talking 7 years old to 70 years old, and the little 14-year-olds and 10-year-olds that are so excited to meet Jason, and they were Jason last year for Halloween. They're going to meet Jason this year, and even the little ones that are 4 or 5 years old, and they walk up, and they're all excited to meet you because they know the character. But when I stand up to take a photo with them, they just kind of look up like, okay, he's a little bigger than I expected.
Well, it's going to be great to see you there. And I know you mentioned you're retired now, but is there anything else maybe you've got coming up or something we should watch here for?
Well, I've got 2 hits out there, people that have reached out to me, and I don't mind doing some of these films with people and just participating, because I like to see people get fortunate, get lucky, so to speak, and break through. So when I get offers, I don't look at it from a monetary perspective. I have a ranch in Montana, so I've got horses, alpacas, and bees, and I shovel horse poop every day, so keeps my arms and shoulders pretty strong. That's why I tell you, when I put the wardrobe on, people come around the corner, and I do get that, "Are you shitting me?" Because the wardrobe is so spot on, and physically I'm the same size. Like I said, I'm just uglier in the face, but the hockey mask hasn't changed.
I'm excited
to be there.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'll be able to get there. So hopefully I'll run into you.
Okay, I'd love to meet you and stuff. Just to say thank you for pushing the show and helping everybody. Crypticon is a big show through Seattle and other places, Kansas City, but. Chaz is just a wonderful guy. I've known him for probably 10 years, and he's a good human being. So thank you for pushing his show. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. It's I've been going since the first year, so it's definitely very professionally run, and everybody has a good time, and I'm excited to hopefully meet you up there.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much.
And again, that was CJ Graham. Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, Part 6. He's making his way to Minnesota here for Crypticon, September 12th through the 14th. At the Crown Plaza Hotel West in Plymouth. Get your tickets now at CrypticonMinneapolis.com.